Larry. It's Larry Goldberg, and he's here because it is Good News Friday, and there's good news to report. We have met the challenge and moved into the 260s. What do you think, Larry? Only $5 away from my 10-10 target.
I think it's going to retreat a little bit come next week. They, they had Gary Black on Schwab, so that'll definitely take 10 points off right there. No, I'm kidding. Gary Pache, relax.
All good.
No, I think that the stock deserves to be there and higher. I expected it, whether it was going to happen now or next month or whatever, it's not important. I think Elon has really set up this stock movement, and it goes back to that first quarter earnings report. You know, Elon's demeanor in the earnings call is so important to the stock price in the coming quarter. You cannot separate the two because this is Elon Musk. Tesla is personification of Elon's genius.
Sure.
And so if Elon is positive and if he is forward-looking, he's always forward-looking, but if he's positive and he shows that he's comfortable with where the company is, the stock is going to go up. On the other hand, if Elon is grouchy and cuts people off and chews them up, stock's going to go down.
All right. So I'm going to guess that maybe we could see impacts between now and 10-10 because we have 10-2 coming up next week. And 10-2 will be the numbers. We've got the street at 461. We've got James Catt coming out today saying he's trending towards 475. So he hasn't given us a final number yet. Troy out this morning or yesterday with 465 and AJ with 486.6. And AJ seemed to be very, very confident. I think you usually get involved in the game, Larry. Have you come up with your number yet?
I'm not as confident as AJ because some of the European numbers are a bit negative. I'm happy with US numbers. I'm happy with Canadian numbers. I'm happy with Australian numbers. And I'm very happy with Chinese numbers. So, and I'm concerned about X and S sales, which I think have cost us about 3,000 units. Because I'm not as bullish as AJ. I am certainly there with James Catt. Maybe a tad higher. So, all I'm saying is that we're going to beat the street.
Okay.
But the street is going to whisper higher before we're done. And so when that 477 or 478 or 476 comes out, they're going to say, well, we really had it. Yeah, we were there. We expected.
All right, so we're not putting down a real number for you yet, but more than 475. Is that
I'm just around at 476 actually. I have to go and sharpen the pencil on this because some things have happened in Europe that I didn't expect, and some things are, both to the good and the bad. So there's some changes in the numbers, but I think Troy for this, for like third time in a row is going to be light.
Low, yeah. So I'm thinking if we hit 261, which is the current street number, that we
461.
Did I say that again? I keep doing that.
You said 261.
I said, yeah, I know. I keep doing that. If we hit 461, the street's number, it probably won't go down, but it may not go up. But if we get into the 470s, maybe, maybe could.
If we hit 461, it'll go down.
Oh, it will go down. Okay. So you're saying the whisper number will cause a drop if it is 461. All right.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of disappointing statements from analysts saying, well, the whisper number was really and, we didn't make the whisper number and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens next week. I'm still saying 470, I'm sorry, 465, 265. See, that's the problem. I'm still saying 265 for the stock price by 1010. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see it go up and down between now and then. It might
Yeah.
even go above 265 for a minute. But I think it'll settle in around there. But there are a few folks out there, Larry, that are talking 300 before 1010.
I honestly don't think so.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure that the main deal about 410, I'm 1010. I'm going to get my numbers straight before this episode is over. I'm sure that the main deal about 1010, of course, is about FSD and its capabilities, because in order for 1010 to be real, we have to have really good FSD, hopefully level 5 at some point. And Larry, I know you've been doing a lot of testing. And tell me about your most recent test.
Well, I wouldn't say I've been doing a lot of testing. It's been a very busy period for me, but yesterday was a very intense day of testing. Drove 80 miles, but that's not really giving you the sense of it. I drove 40 miles to the other side of Raleigh, which is the city between us and Smithfield, where I was driving to. And to get there, you have to go through freeway, you have to go through city streets, then you have to go back to freeway. The freeway is in the process of being rebuilt and improved. It's a terrible drive, terrible drive. And I had to go there and back, and in both cases in driving rain, because we're getting these bands of the hurricane, or in advance of the hurricane, we were getting that. And so the bands of rain would be intense and basically eliminate visibility.
Wow, yeah.
And then I had to, for various reasons, stop in Raleigh to pick up some stuff on my way to Smith. Anyway, so I had to drive city streets, and there was a terrible accident in the city streets. And then on the freeway coming back, there was a very bad accident. So I had the emergency vehicles and the rerouting, and the car performed magnificently. I mean, it was a dream. It was, firstly, didn't touch the wheel, didn't touch the steering wheel once, in all the time. Secondly, I was incredibly relaxed, far more so than I've been so far ever using FSD. And I'm very comfortable using FSD, and I'm not a nervous FSD driver. But honestly, it was very relaxing, very easy drive. I was paying attention to the road. For the most part, I was paying attention to the road. I did, change the blog, the podcast I was listening to. But it was really, really outstanding. Lane changes. And what was interesting is that, this version 5.4, 12.5.4 is not yet a single stack.
Right.
It's going to be the next release that's going to be single stack. Notwithstanding that, the quality of the freeway driving has improved significantly from previous versions. I think they are adding components of the stack of the freeway driving to the full stack. Yeah, to the AI. In particular, the merging on difficult exits and difficult merges has become significantly better. Car has become more assertive, but more confident of itself. I didn't have an intervention. I may have been lucky,
That's a pretty good story, Larry. For
Yeah,
miles of terrain.
I've had interventions in this particular drive before, but I didn't have yesterday. Even though it was very difficult, the traffic was very heavy in part, and I was also more laid back. Sometimes I get impatient,
Mhm.
and speed past cars and, get into the left lane and whiz past them. And so I intervened to do that. I didn't do it yesterday. I think I was very relaxed about it, listening to some very good podcasts.
Right.
Um, Look, if this is the way it's going to improve, there's still those remaining items. We've enumerated this on the program before, but signs, not standard stop signs and so on, but reading signs, I think, is going to be important. Um, Particularly yellow signs. It doesn't really do well with yellow signs that are not kind of your standard stop and yield and so on and so forth. And then the other aspect is flashing lights. Does
Mhm.
not recognize flashing lights. And so that obviously entails emergency vehicles, school buses, which are very important. But you know, other than that, the universe of corner cases has contracted very dramatically. So I'm very confident that 2025 will see Tesla declare, that they're ready to take responsibility. Whether or not we get robotaxis on the day, I don't know. I think that it's not that important. So, all in all, the test was amazing, but it's only one test, so time will tell.
So you've had that test. You've been driving it for a long time. I'm sure you've paid attention to some of the guys, Omar and others who put up lots and lots of videos. I've seen like one or two people say, "Hey, I don't get it. I'm still having some problems," and everybody else is just going on and on about no interventions at all. Just
I've
like,
seen some disappointments. I've seen some disappointments about lane changes, which surprised me
yeah.
because it seemed to behave very well. Now you have to have a little bit of patience with it because I had an occasion yesterday on my way out where the car veered into the right lane, it was a fool's right lane because that right lane was just a turn lane, and actually you had to get back, and it recovered from that. Now, whether somebody would have intervened for that, I
Mhm.
don't know.
Mhm.
So there is a situation where I knew the car would find its feet,
Mhm.
and it wasn't a danger, and I just let it figure it out. Um, So I think that was the only occasion, though, that there was any kind of important call from me to say, don't intervene at this point.
Yeah, and I think that is a lot to do with it. As you know, I don't drive that many miles in it, and so, the last time I was out, I was trying to go from one freeway to another, and it was clever enough to see that a car, as it was trying to make its turn into the next lane, it noticed that a car had, taken up that space and it stopped its change. But then after that, it waited until the very last minute before it got into position to get into the off ramp. And those things, again, I'm a more nervous person because I don't drive it as much. I let it do its thing and it was fine, but I can imagine other people that would have gone, "Oh, I'm going to miss my exit," and
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it miss the opportunity to merge into that exit lane early enough that it was going to get into trouble further down the line. I knew that because I know the road very well. And so I said, well, I may end up intervening here, or I may end up missing my exit,
yeah,
which isn't the end of the world.
right.
But the way it was able to inveigle itself into that merge was pretty impressive because there was almost enough space to merge, and it actually went into that space, forcing the car behind it, not in any dangerous way, but you know, getting that car behind it to really back off a little bit enough to make that merge. And there's a case where somebody who's less comfortable, who's less used to it, blah, 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 they say, oh, this is very bad. But it wasn't very bad. It's the kind of merge that I may have made, myself under less, under, not ideal conditions. So there's an example of where I would say there's improvement to be made, but it's far from unsafe and it's far from, worth an intervention.
So, I'm a big fan of Stephen Mark Ryan. I've always
Yeah.
enjoyed his commentary. But I have this thing, I'm like, I don't want it to be 2025 when FSD is finally at level 5 because Stephen estimated 2025 like 3 years ago, Larry. So, for him to make that estimate 3 years ago and be right, he's going to be insufferable. He'd be like
Well,
me.
I also estimated 2025 and I'm not insufferable. So just give me the kudos and,
Okay, all right, here we go.
no, I said a year and a half, about 7 months or 8 months ago, and I'm still on track. I mean, I may be out by a couple of months, one way or the other, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing. And 4 months ago, I may not have been as sanguine as I am now.
Okay. Well, anything else on Tesla before we go into the economy? Anything else that's interesting
No,
for you?
I will tell you, I was very happy to have my Cybertruck through this hurricane because, if the power failed, I would just plug it in and I'm away.
That's right. Yeah, no doubt about it. It wasn't exactly a dream. It was one of those things where I was half in and half out. And I was thinking, what if Tesla was able to turn all of the previous cars into a, reversible flow? What do they call that? I keep forgetting what they call that. Anyway, allowing us to use it to charge or to light up our homes just by an over-the-air update. Would that be fun?
Yeah, well, they don't have the hardware in the cars to do that.
I think you're right. I just thought that was one of those, weird half dream things. All right, the Wall Street Journal says today. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's later. Let me get to that in a second. We had another set of crazy stats come out this morning. Another one, you missed this one. A 5-year review, not a 1-year review, but a 5-year review of saving rates. Changed the number for last month and this month. We were saying that it was 2.9 last month, which is an all-time low. Everybody's been talking about the fact that consumers running out of money because they're out of savings and they're not saving money. So we're making decisions as a country, as an economy. We're making these decisions about what to do because the consumer's running out of money. And they're saying, well, after a 5-year review of the savings rates, we're going to say it's 4.9. 4.9, which would be a kind of an upper range of what normally people save in and would suggest that people still have money to spend, that their savings aren't used up. What are we going to do, Larry, about these government and other statistics that are completely leaving us?
Use that as an excuse as to why our predictions are wrong. Why not?
Spoken like an owner. No, it's like an employee.
I mean, come on. I mean, if you tell me we're at 2.9 and then tomorrow you say we're at 4.9, I'm saying, guys,
how could I plan?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, wild. So
where were we at the height of the pandemic when the savings rate hit?
When we thought it was 32?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it made sense that people were saving a lot at that time because they had no place to put the money, but
yeah, it did.
Anyway, so then
it'd be interesting to see what that revision looked like. But these revisions are crazy. We live in a connected world of data, and you think we could get that data right?
And it would seem like this is the kind of thing where Bank of America or Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley could come out the next day and say, no, it's really 2.9.
Yeah. We collect data from these banks on a daily basis, literally a daily basis.
I know. I don't understand why there wasn't I looked for a clapback. I looked for anybody making commentary about this change, and I found none. We'll see. Maybe over the next few days, there'll be more data on that. But then
that's interesting. If the savings rate was incorrect, if you think it through, it means that the expenditure rate has been lower than we anticipated.
Would have to be, right?
Which means that the GDP may be lower than we've expected.
Except they came out with the second quarter, they kept it at 3%. Didn't change at all.
Well, they didn't have the savings rate yet. So now
Oh,
that they
yeah.
have the savings rate, it could mean that they're going to have to revise that down significantly.
That would be
They're
interesting.
going to have to revise it down anyway because of the employment report, the labor report. And so this may be an additional look, numbers don't appear in isolation.
Right.
It's a balance sheet.
Right.
It's an income statement. So there's got to be debits and credits and they've got to balance.
Right.
And so this could well indicate that we've been overestimating the growth, which I've been saying all along. Well, we've both been saying that all along,
Right.
but maybe we're wrong. And they'll revise that up. Who knows? I mean, this is like a banana republic.
Well, so then the Wall Street Journal comes out and they say, okay, 9.1% of credit card balances turn delinquent. Now that one is coming straight in from the banks, although
That's
it's
a real number.
being reported by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, but it's coming in from the banks directly.
That's a real number.
It says it's general. This has been a bigger issue for people where, in the bottom half of the income spectrum. What do you know? Mark Mason, Chief Financial Officer at Citigroup, said that in a Barclays conference that the bank has seen delinquencies picking up as more consumers are carrying balances. Where there is growth in spending, he said, is driven primarily by Citi's affluent customers. So the affluent customers are spending money. We've been saying that all along, Larry. We've been saying that for months and months. The people under 100,000, they're out of money. So maybe the savings at 5.9 is all from the affluent.
They don't make up that. I mean, they can't do that. They can't make that difference. I think they may. Well, who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, so the numbers are just crazy. And so it's really hard to make these adjustments. But I think I'm still in the camp. All the numbers this week were great. You can't really argue with any of the numbers being a problem for the economy right now that came out this last week.
I mean, we always say that predictions are hard, especially about the future.
Right.
Now it appears predictions are hard, especially about the past. I mean,
Larry, I'm going to work on a meme for you for that one.
I'm telling you. Oh my God.
Oh, mackerel. Well, okay. So consumer sentiment came in higher than expected this morning from the University of Michigan. But the University of Michigan, I don't know if you've been watching or reading the commentary from the University of Michigan. It sounds like that they're part of the Harris for President election committee. It's so predictable how they're going to couch whatever it is that they find out. And then somebody put up a chart the other day. I should have probably even put it up here on the screen, showing the difference between the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report and the Commerce Department's Consumer Confidence Report, Conference Board. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Report, and they've never been further apart. And it makes me nervous. And the University of Michigan one is much higher. The consumers on there they are much happier, much more excited about the future. And these are surveys. I've done a little surveying in my life, a little bit. I had a class in college where I needed to do a survey. It's not just the words you use, it can be the energy that you use, the way that you speak.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we know that.
Are going to impact the way people respond to you.
Right.
And I just wonder if you've got a university that is all in for one party.
Really? Do you really think any university would ever do a thing like that?
I don't even mean intentionally, just because they want the result. The individuals who are making.
I mean, Randy, anything from any university or any academic today is
suspect. Yeah.
Very, very suspect. I mean, you don't have to be on one side of this argument or the other. I think you just have to recognize that the situation of our academic world has become so parlous in terms of, the politicization of academia. And people used to say, well, it's not the hard sciences. The hard sciences are exempt from that kind of. It's no longer true.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's all throughout because you are going to be judged. That's what it really boils down to. You have to virtue signal. I my daughter, my oldest daughter, was in a sociology class, and this is 25 years ago, in her master's in sociology, and she went to the head of the department because she was afraid to speak her mind in the classroom, because every time she spoke her mind, it was slapped down, in ways that were not even kind, by the professor. So this is not a new problem. It's been going on for a while.
Right. But it's become intense now. I mean, far more intense than it ever was, because those professors now have got legal rights
Yeah, yeah,
that they enforce, or they have to enforce. And so,
yeah, yeah. So sneaking up on us, Larry, is something that is not been talked about much. Jeff Lutz really started talking about it a week ago, Wednesday, and even he is only talking about half the problem. So we have the Boeing strike, but the Boeing strike by itself can change the economy, by a not insignificant amount. I have said many times that I believe that it was Boeing and its subsidiary, and all of its people that were feeding into the Boeing world in the 1991 that really caused that recession, or was half of the reason for the recession, because the government stopped spending money on Boeing things, in terms of military. And so engineers and, I mean, highly paid people were really impacted all throughout the West Coast, because of that slowdown. So now you have Boeing on strike, and the union just turned down the second offer, which is supposed to be the final offer, which was a 30% raise immediately. And so they've turned that down, and they didn't turn it down like, oh, well, we're close, or what. They turned it down. They said, this is not even good enough to take a vote on. Then the part that Jeff brought up is we've got the dock strike.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, so the dock strike is crazy. Now you're going to be more impacted by that than I am, because it's an East Coast and Gulf states dock strike. And that could be really, really a big deal. Have you had companies where dock strikes would impact you, or has it been your stuff is mostly software, and you can put it on an airplane if you have to?
Yeah, we would never do anything but fly something, but for the most part, docs really didn't touch us. Now, going back, actually, I should rephrase that. Going back in the late 60s, sorry, late 70s, we had a client who was a very large shipping line,
Mm.
very large shipping line.
Mhm.
And so we were, and we were very engaged in the container tracking business. And so dock strikes were very important to us.
Sure.
That was many years ago.
Yes, well, I've had plenty to do with dock strikes in my life. They've impacted me many, many times. My very first business, my bike shop, was basically put out of business by
Oh,
the
gee.
only bi-coastal dock strike in the history of the United States. So both ends of the country were shut down. So there was absolutely no bicycles being imported. I'm a brand new company that needs bicycles to survive. So I was out of business in 6 months. But this is something, people don't realize this impacts not just the dock workers, but there's all the transportation companies that are servicing those docks. They're all out of business, or, they
But
all have.
doesn't the president have fiat power to overcome the dock strike?
So you have Taft-Hartley, and generally speaking, I would say the normal state of affairs, based on previous experiences, they would come in about 2 weeks into it. people are already calling for them to come into it before it even starts because it's the season. We're talking about unloadings in October, less than 60 days before Christmas. This is not a great time to be having a dock strike. And of course, they're doing it on purpose, right? So you have the retail industries, you got wholesale industries. It's the farmers, though, who are the most worried right now. They're saying that this will really impact the planting season. So they're the ones calling for Taft-Hartley to be immediately invoked. But the president is a union guy. So what do you think, Larry?
Well, the president isn't running the country right now. I mean, let's face it, the party is supporting Kamala Harris. She's going to make that call, or her handlers are going to make that call. I don't think the president has I don't know that he has the presence to actually counter the party at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So if the party decides to invoke Taft-Hartley, I think they will invoke Taft-Hartley. I don't think the president's going to stand in their way. Last I saw the president, he didn't look like he was. He looked worse than he'd been earlier. I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not an American-born American. I came here really at the age of 40, although I came to school here earlier as a kid and studied American history and American, sociology very closely. I suspect that this is not going to take place, or it's not going to get that serious. Now, if it does get serious, that's extremely bad for for Kamala Harris. It could have real repercussions for her election.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I think they're feeling very comfortable and very almost smug in terms of where they stand. She's not coming out, and meeting the press. She's not putting herself in a position to, and she did very well in the debate, by the way. She won that debate without question.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's amazing to me that she was able to do that because her ability, her stage presence in a confrontational environment is terrible.
Well,
But there you are. I mean,
three against one.
Yeah. So I think they will do everything to protect that situation, which I would do if I were in her position. So I think there is a real chance that these strikes will not really will not go as far as impacting the economy seriously in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once she's elected, if she's elected, then all bets are off.
Yeah, of course. So, all right. So now here's the big question, the one that I've been raising over and over again. And of course, a month ago, I'm talking that the markets are already way out past where they should be. And now we've gone up another, I don't know, I didn't look how many more percent, but every day is another miracle of new highs in the Dow, especially, but actually, the other ones catch up after a day or two. Larry, how much further can it go?
Depends on how much further the interest rate goes down. I mean, look how high it was at the peak of interest rates. The market was at an all-time high level at the peak of the interest rates. So with a decline in interest rates, it can go higher. That's the reality. I try and follow the numbers to see if it's still sane, I do a sanity check on it. And, the sanity check proves out that we're not out of line terribly. We're not, I wouldn't say we're low historically. I wouldn't say we're not getting to the upper boundary of the historical
Mhm.
track, but we're not beyond the upper boundary. And if we are, then not by much. So we're probably at the upper bounds. We probably don't deserve to go much higher than we are right now. And we could go a little bit lower, particularly if the election doesn't go to Wall Street's taste. But it's not that far out of bounds because profits have been consistently very, very good.
Now, so do you
And
think that continues because earnings start, what, 10 days?
10 days, yeah. Yeah, I think the earnings season is not going to be bad at all. We haven't heard any really, gripes from the retailers. Target and Walmart are the bellwethers. We haven't heard them give us any hint of angst.
Mhm.
So, and if you look at Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange is really doing well,
Mhm.
which indicates that, all the old line classic companies are selling, their traditional products.
Yeah.
So all is well on the stock exchange unless, the growth rate in the country seems to falter and, but we've got like three more interest rate cuts this year. Is it three more? Yeah, three.
Two more this year.
Yeah. We're already up. Yeah,
November.
two more this year. That's a lot. That's got to be another 50
Yep.
points. And so this market can run.
Okay. All right. Well, on the other end of the business world, and a world that you're very familiar with, All In Podcast now for 3 months running has always done at least one of their segments on the impossibility of the VC business right now and how hard it is to get companies funded and how hard it is to get second rounds and all of that. Larry, is there a solution? Because we can't stop funding our up and comers.
I'm looking right now for funds for a company that are wanting to come into the United States in a very interesting offering. And I'm finding it very, very difficult. If it doesn't have AI in the front of it, and even if it has AI in front of it, it's easy to fund new operations, but to fund expanding existing operations is really, 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 really difficult. And it's not that people don't take my calls.
Yeah, yeah.
I am taking calls, but I'm not putting out money. The investments I've got, when I get calls for follow on, I always try, and if I feel good about it, I always try and meet my, not my obligations, but I'd like to keep up my investment, but these guys are struggling. I mean, struggling. And if you're in enterprise software, you don't have an AI in front of it for real, not
A real one. Yeah, right.
It's real struggle because the VCs, the the angels don't see how they're going to get their money back.
Right.
And this is what the all-in guys are talking about. So
We're
they're
talking
not
about 15 years. 15 years to get your money back. That's too long, right?
Yeah, and it never was like this. And I think there's a lot of reasons for it. And I think a lot of reasons can be, you can point to the government, this government in particular. But in the pandemic, we had the Trump government, and that's where it began. So it began in mid 20s, mid 2020, and it's just continued. I think before the end of 2019, early 20, before March of 2020, I think we were still chugging along.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't know if you maybe have had the silver bullet you could send off to those guys and they'd
You know,
have
I did an exit. I did an exit end of last year
Mhm.
from my very last company that I founded, and didn't do too badly. But I had a very good partner in it and so on. But there are some companies that are still managing that cycle, but very, very few.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, there's no IPOs. I mean, there's just no IPOs. When was the last time you remember an IPO? I mean, it's just,
But look at the market. Everybody says the market is so good, blah, blah, blah. But look at, you can divide this market, with a bright line.
Mhm.
Good, bad. And what are the good? They're gigantic companies.
Right. Right.
What are the bad? The emergent smaller companies.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's just there's no,
The IPOs are because all of those guys down there, it's not good enough.
yeah. Yeah. So there needs to be a solution. I don't know what the solution is. I suppose, one of the things Elon has talked about is that owning a corporation today is fraught with all kinds of issues, a public corporation, and that's why a lot of companies are staying private on purpose because of that. But then you
He
also,
tried to take Tesla private,
yeah, yeah, he was,
and that was in 2018. That was before, the stuff hit the fan.
right,
He wanted to take the company private.
right,
He's kept SpaceX private all these years. I mean, this company is valued at over $200 billion.
right. Mhm.
Yeah, I've got an investment in SpaceX.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's not a big investment.
No, but you've done very well.
Well, yes. I mean, it's kind of doubled the money, but that's on paper.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know when I'll ever see that back. Well, I don't want to see it back, but if you wanted to sell that tomorrow,
Uh-huh.
you could probably sell it at a 25, 30 something percent discount. I don't know.
Mm.
I haven't tried to do it. But even at that discount, you would have done well.
Right, right.
But it's really rough. But Elon's answer to that at SpaceX is to create this private market.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got such a large following because he's one of these gigantic companies. So he's got such an enormous following that if there's an offering of his stock in any one of his companies, there are people to buy it.
Oh, and that's among the people that can afford the kind of size investment that needs to be made.
Yes.
Can you imagine if he did something where you could invest $1,000? He would have a universe. He would have 10 million Tesla retail customers who'd be lined up to put their $1,000
But
in.
that's because the government enforces these very tough laws on smaller investors, which aren't imposed upon larger investors. So in a way, it kind of makes it very hard for the small investor.
All right. Well, Larry, I think that's what I know about the economy today, or at least what I've learned in the last 24 hours. Anything else that you have on your mind with regard to Tesla or the economy right now?
Yeah, oil is dropping like a stone.
Yeah, yeah. It actually popped up for 2 days and then
It did, yeah, but it's in a secular downturn, and who knows? I think part of it is that Russia is able to ship oil today freely because of the non-compliance of the European powers.
right.
I think that's affecting the market very badly, but there's overproduction globally.
And then Saudi said, we don't care about the $100 price point anymore. We're gonna
They're
go
going
ahead.
to pump.
We're gonna,
This happens, it's so predictable.
they want market share now. So yeah, we could be going down to 60.
The Soviets are a perfect, sorry, the Saudis are a perfect sine wave. You know, price, market share, price, market share. Almost, it's predictable.
All right. So Tesla ended up $6.24 today. And Larry, in the after hours, I have to hit that button over there. Another
There's
eight,
no,
another 8 cents.
well, it's just kind of the close, right? It's the cross
Yeah.
because Friday, right?
Yes, right. Yeah. But it closed at the high. Closed at the high for the day. So that's pretty good on a Friday. So I would say that suggests that people were pretty serious about getting their last chance
I
in it.
think it was because of my FSD experience yesterday
That's right.
that I posted
You did
about.
post about that, yeah. So that undoubtedly impacted things. The Dow was up 137, Nasdaq down 70, S&P down 7. And the Magnificent Seven, only Apple and Google were up. Everybody else was down. And the Kathy Woods were pretty much, yeah, they were all up except PayPal, which had been going like crazy, and then somebody took the profits there. But other than that, the Kathy Woods all ended up on the positive side today.
And Tesla today popped back into the top 10 most valuable companies in the world.
Oh, it did.
Yep,
Oh,
back
wow.
to number 10.
Okay. Yeah, and they've been pointing out that Elon Musk has made a lot of money in the last 6 months.
Do not use the words made a lot of money.
Okay, I'm sorry. Has become worth a lot more money than he was.
Thank you.
And
I mean, when you guys talk about made a lot of money, everybody wants to tax that. So he's not making any money. He hasn't made a penny.
So from 144 to 260 at his yeah. So I mean, just that alone, if you just use that, nothing to do with any of the other companies, that's a pretty good run for Elon, at least on paper.
Yeah, well, the Delaware court opinion's coming down in the next month, and maybe it'll drive his net worth down.
That's when they're expecting it, huh?
I'm expecting. I don't know that they're expecting.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's start with bonds. The bonds today did finally fall back a little bit. So you've got the 10-year down 3.8 basis points today to 3.751. This is my number, Larry. Just remember that 3.75. This is where it's going to stick it'll be up and down around 3.751. But this is where it needs to be, okay, for a while until we get a little closer to the next one. That's my opinion. It's not investment advice, but I don't expect to see a lot of movement in that 10-year. In the meantime, the 2-month is up, which is really weird. The 3-month, though, is down 0.5 basis point, and the 2-year down 6.6. So down quite strongly. So that is going in the right direction. So it's getting less and less expensive. It's getting less and less, more and more expensive. Anyway, it always throws me off. It is getting offering less yield than the 10-year by more and more. How's that?
That sounds good.
Okay, all right. We'll leave it at that then.
Now, I'll tell you something very fascinating.
Sure, go for it.
At Schwab today, my money market fund is earning, are you ready for this?
Okay.
4.89% money market cash. I mean, I can turn that into cash tomorrow.
Right.
No term at all, 4.89%. Now it's down from 5.14
right
3 weeks ago, but still, I'm at 4.89% for cash in the bank.
Cash in the bank. That's a good rate, no doubt about
But
it.
isn't that, what's that telling you?
Yeah. They still need deposits. That's what it's telling me.
No, that's a money market fund. That's what they're earning from their investments in short-term and medium-term bonds.
All right. But don't they also isn't that also a a deposit for them that they can
No,
use?
it's nothing to do with deposits.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is
I didn't know
pure.
that.
This is why I'm raising the issue.
Oh,
Look, deposits are a whole different, but I'm
yeah,
showing you that right now,
I see.
money market funds are still at incredible levels of.
Wow.
Now it's come down a little bit. It's down 30, maybe 25 basis points,
Uh-huh.
but it's still at 4.89.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know how they do it. And I'm told there are trillions of dollars there.
Yeah.
Not at Schwab, but
Yeah.
across all
Well,
the
yeah.
money market funds.
Heard that as well. I have to admit, maybe I better study up on more money on those funds because I know nothing about them, quite frankly. Um, Oil, as you pointed out, but today up 97 cents. So whether or not the Hezbollah thing, because Iran is now getting all excited and, they're saying, hey, we're going to be there behind our friends, Hezbollah. But
Well,
man,
their friends are no more.
Larry, this is one of the most brilliant military strategies I think I have ever
I
seen.
mean, in 1 week, they have completely eliminated the hierarchy. I don't know. I don't know where it'll end, but my God, this is one for the record books. I mean, it's like
Somebody
decapitating the entire political and military leadership.
and a tremendous amount of their fighting power, a tremendous amount of their munitions and their launches.
We don't know. We don't know that, but it's a fair assumption. But
I've seen
Mike,
I've seen some
but
stats on that I think were coming from the IDF. It's something like 35% the other day of all their munitions gone.
well, I heard they had 200,000 rockets, so that means they still have 130,000 rockets.
True.
You can never know what, but I mean, and I don't know in history if there's ever been a decapitation of this caliber. I know that when the Russians marched into Poland, they destroyed a very high percentage of the nomenclature, the upper class. But that was after the country was defeated and they marched these people away, and then
Right.
they slaughtered them. But here, this is in an act of war, in the midst of a war,
Right.
decapitating the entire political and military leadership.
Right.
It's incredible.
Pretty, it's been I just, there's one or more people that sat in a war room a year ago and plotted this out, and they should go down in history. Natural gas, it continues to befuddle and bemuse me. Up another 6% today to $2.92.
But it's a true commodity
Yes,
that is totally dependent upon the weather.
right. We talked about this, of course, the last couple of weeks, but it's like still that's a tremendous run up. Again, one of those run ups where you go, at some point, even though we don't know what winter is going to bring, is that too much of a run up too fast? Not investment advice, but I think it's always important. I think you said that, didn't you just say that a little while ago? Sometimes you gotta see, I learned from you, Larry. So then we've got
More fool you.
I've lost my place. The
You're at
dollar.
natural gas.
Finished. Oh, that's right. Didn't go to gold. It hit all-time highs again today, but now it's down again to 2680.
But what did it hit at all-time high?
26. Well, let me look in to double check this to be sure. I think I just did it wrong. It hit 2697. So tried to get to 2700, couldn't quite break through the psychological barrier. But once again, silver has actually outstripped gold in terms of how fast it's gone up this year. It's sitting at almost $32 at this point. But again, in the pre-market. No, this is not a pre-market. This would have been today's action down 1.32%. Copper also. So all three of these are seemingly now going in lockstep for the last few days. So copper down 1% today, but still at $4.50, call it 59 cents. So dollar unchanged against the euro today and down 1.8% against the yen. That's a pretty strong move.
Well, they have a new prime minister, right?
Oh,
He's
yeah,
got
they're going
a
to
new
sign.
program. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. See what happens there. And Bitcoin has been playing around that 65 level now. So 65,913 as of this minute.
It's back from, we got down to 58, I think.
Yeah, we got to 50. Yeah, no, 55, I think.
55. Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, you can get slaughtered with Bitcoin. It's, amazing.
That's absolutely right. All right, so that's where we stand on a Friday night, going into a weekend where people are going to be cleaning up. We're sorry to hear that Nicholas Gibbs, my Tuesday night co-host, was hit with a foot of water in his home. He says it completely
Terrible.
destroyed all their stuff, and it's a brand new home. They just moved in, I want to say a year ago, maybe less than a year ago. But he's so. Our prayers go out to Nick Gibbs and his family, and other people in Florida for all the folks in Florida. Larry, any parting comments, parting thoughts?
No, I'm gearing up for news on the 10th. I'm gearing up for the deliveries, and I'm gearing up for the earnings on I guess that'll be the 15th-ish. And so it's going to be a busy couple of weeks. And, I'm thinking things are going quite well.
Yeah, well, I'll give a little suggestion that people go and look at what Brian Wang did today in terms of his end of 2025 estimates. I'll put the card up there. I've decided that next week, this is the first time I'm talking about this, next week, after the numbers come in, AJ is going to come on the channel. First time for AJ to come on the channel. And he's going to give his updated 2023 stack. I'm sorry, third quarter 2024 stack, his third quarter 2024 stack. So we're going to talk about his estimates for the earnings call. And then about a week after that, I'm going to go for the first time in about a year. I'm going to go ahead and do I may do a earnings call estimate of my own for a change again. But what I really want to do, I want to do my own end of 2025 analysis, like Brian just did, with a little more detail than what he did. So that's coming up. All that'll be coming up over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Exciting.
Exciting. All right, Larry, thank you so much for being on. Card is right there for Brian Wang, and we'll be talking to you all later. It has been great in the meantime having this conversation.